strategic move that Eddie is making for AJ? Why are you not thinking, let's get him set up for
kind of animal?
If that was years and years and years ago. Like, Clarissa is a way different fighter from when she was back in.
Thanks to those joining me live and to those that will be joining me on our
defenses that she's had to have recently. You know, she's pulled people.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the RoundTable about tribalism. I don't think tribalism is necessarily bad. I just don't think it has to be.
I don't know what he think he sees or what he think he know. But he going to the hospital, bro. Like, bro, you not winning that fight.
You guys mentioned, I think, D-Style, you mentioned him versus Regis Program. I'd love that. Sounds like a
old. I don't need you, you know, and PBC and others, in my opinion, it's like, oh, this is my guy. Like, there's a relationship.
Flat out, it's tough, and we call box, and we go to the end of the round, and then
that would say, what do you mean by acting black? That's a fair question, but a participant of trash talk knows.
And they're announcing a fight 3-4 months from now, and he ain't gonna fight. I bet you anything, he's not gonna fight somebody as good as John Ryder. Thanks to those joining me live and to those that have been joining me on archive. Another edition of the Roundtable. It's the 141st edition. So much to cover. This is, of course, Crawford versus Spence. Big fight week. One of the biggest fights we've had in the history of the welterweight division, in the history of boxing, period. Can't wait to get to talking about that one. Shout out to the chat. Make sure you hit the like button if you're listening on the archive. And being joined by Joe Habib from Ringside Reporter. Check the Roundtable every other week on his channel. Bruce Goss in the building as well. Make sure you subscribe to his channel, Boxing, Jazz, and more. And, of course, Chauncey Pearls. You could catch him on Instagram and on Twitter under that same handle. And, of course, we have Martin Shea, professional boxer at 122 pounds. And, of course, trainer Derek Santos in the building. How are you guys doing?
Good.
All right, let's go ahead and get this one started. Chauncey Pearl, really quick. I know you're posting that you can't hear anything, but everybody can hear me. So get in and get out, and we'll sort that out. All right. With that said, let's go ahead and get this one started. Senisa Estrada has been under the radar. She's sandwiched in between two big fights. You have the Inoue Fulton fight, and you have Crawford Spence in between her fight, and like no one's talking about her fight. Like it's just kind of no one's talking about it. It is what it is. Now she is a huge favorite, a minus 2,000 the last time I checked the odds against her opponent, and that's Paola Yudica. All right, she's a big underdog out of Argentina. Question here is, at this point, I know she's probably going to try to go for undisputed, but once she accomplishes that, is there anything really left for her in these divisions? Or is she going to have to do kind of like what they're doing with Inoue at the moment, where she's going to have to move up to find a challenge, right? Joe B, we'll start with you.
That's exactly what she's going to have to do, because she's so much better than all of those young ladies down in those lighter weight classes. So she's... My only concern, though, is because she's not the biggest girl in the world. She doesn't have, like, the frame. I think I have a hard time seeing her go. Maybe she can go to 126, but that's about it. And you know, imagine her versus Amanda Serrano. That would be great if Amanda still sticks around at that point in time. So, I mean, that would be something that I think would be interesting and intriguing if she could just go up a few and just continue to challenge herself, because she may have to push the envelope here, because she's fighting a lot of plus 2,000s and a lot of plus 2,500s, and these girls have little to no shot of beating her. So she's going to have to really do some mini Pacquiao type stuff, I think, to get some challenges. Most definitely.
All right, Bruce Goss, what do you think? Are you going to be watching her fight on Friday tomorrow? And do you think she's going to have to be moving up soon?
Yeah, with all due respect, these guys, I think I told you, I'm not a big fan of women's boxing. I watch the best out there. Hey man, I'm not gonna start saying I watched this and that. I mean, I watch the top names out there. I watch Amanda Serrano. I watch Clarissa Shields. But my heart's just not in it, man. I'm just not the kind of a guy that likes to see women beat on each other. But I'm sure I'll be watching, because Senisa Estrada is one of the top fighters out there, and it is what it is, bro. But I'm more of a traditionalist.
Oh man. All right. Interesting. All right. Chauncey Pearls, thoughts on Senisa Estrada? Maybe you think her opponent stands a shot this week. I don't know, man. Maybe you do, but and if not, well, what's next for her, brother?
Okay, so Senisa's from right here, Southern California. So I am gonna be watching the fight. I'm interested. I'm sure she's like a huge favorite again on this fight. As long as they're not matching her up with like poor soccer moms, like that poor young lady that she knocked out a few fights back. I'm gonna be interested in it, man. She's right here from LA, man. I got to. But as far as her moving up, you know, the talent pool, unfortunately, man, and I'm going to sound disrespectful, but just the talent pool just isn't there for a fighter like Senisa Estrada. So the challenges are going to come with her moving up eventually. How far she goes up there, I'm not sure. She doesn't seem like she's like a really big, a big lady. So yeah, but I think that the challenges will be as she moves up. But for now, you know, like, have some showcase fights and then I guess move up, man. But yeah, as far as watching it, yeah, I'm gonna watch it.
Okay. Let's start with Derek here. What can you tell us about Senisa Estrada?
Senisa Estrada, you know, she's gritty. She's tough. You know, she has an awkward style. Leona, I've watched her fight. All Argentinian fighters are tough, but I don't think she has anything for Senisa. To be honest with you, Senisa, you know, at 112, she could fight Christina Cruz, who was a long stalwart of Team USA and is out there looking for opponents now. Christina would take that fight in a heartbeat. I don't see Senisa going past 115 pounds.
I think 117. I say 118.
Maybe.
I say the highest she'll fight is 118. Like if even that. Yeah, if that.
But you know, she is entertaining. She's gritty. She's very awkward. She throws everything with bad intentions. So I do think that, you know, she is entertaining. You know, I don't know what happened with her and Golden Boy, but, you know, at the end of the day, maybe they just ran out of opponents for her and Top Rank, you know, decided to pick up where they left off.
There's something you got to understand about a lot of these girls. You know, Senisa's got a lot of professional experience and she's developed a style that you're not going to see anybody else fight like, which gives other girls problems. So regardless of, she's never going to fight at 126, never. So regardless of the styles, regardless of who she fights, her style is her style. You're not going to find anybody that's going to be able to really handle it. It's almost like a Floyd Mayweather. You know, Floyd had his style. He was solid in his style and nobody really had it. People tried to emulate it. Some had minimal success, but nobody did it like Floyd. And that's what I respect about Senisa. I've watched her come along and nobody really knew about her. I also lived in California for 8 years. I was living in Oxnard and I knew her and, you know, yep. And so we,
I'm here in Oxford. I'm here in Oxford.
Are you?
That's why, man,
that's my home away from home.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. So, you know, with her, I mean, it's hard because again, you gotta understand, like there are a lot of female boxers out there. Some of them aren't getting the opportunities that they deserve and that they have worked for and earned. So that's unfortunate. And that's on part of the promoters, you know, not matching some of these girls up with the fights that the public should see and the styles the public should see. In Senisa's case, I think that, you know, it's a smaller weight class. She's definitely going to have to move up to get some different opponents, and her style has a lot to do with that. But regardless, I support Senisa. I'm definitely going to watch the fight. I like to watch her fight, and I like her style. And I think, again, like Derek said, she's gritty. She's gotten smarter, and I like to see her boxing IQ just grow, and how she handles these girls. And you know, and I'd like to see her move up a bit. I mean, when she fought Marlena Esparza, that was a great fight. You know, so I don't know if that's even another opportunity, another fight there. But Marlene just had a you know, controversial decision her last outing, so I'm not sure if that would be, or maybe Senisa fights the girl that Estrada fought. That girl was tough.
No, absolutely.
Glenn fought.
So you're saying her max, it's 118?
I mean, if that, I think 115. But again, like Derek said, Christina Cruz is, you know, she had an outstanding amateur career. I trained with Christina back in the day. We sparred together. You know, Christina stayed in the amateurs and got a lot of experience, turned pro. She's got what, 5 professional fights now?
5 or 6,
five or
but
six
she's
professional
got
fights, but she's
umpteen years on Team USA.
and she's
so
got
it's
a really,
like international
I think her
experience.
boxing ability. I sparred with Christina. I think her boxing ability. I sparred with her 2 days ago. She's getting ready to fight in August at
New York.
in New York, and
New
it's
York,
so yeah, August 10th, I think it is. So we just had a sparring set. She's she's sharp. She's a very, very good boxer. She's really well with distance, timing, her movement. And I've been happy to be a part of her training camps and seen her develop as a professional. And I think she would really, I think her and Senisa would be a great matchup.
Okay. Yeah, I think I do want to see the Marlene rematch personally. I thought that was a good fight, and Marlene had that ugly cut, and I've always wondered, how different could that fight be? But and I remember that fight was actually 3 minutes. So I wonder if it would be any different if they would do 2 minutes. I don't know, but.
I think it would be interesting if they did it 2 minutes. I'd like to see that because you guys got to understand that it's a different fight. I know a lot of people, it's a topic of discussion for a lot of people, like, oh, how come women can't do 3 minutes? We can do 3 minutes. Are we going to get paid for that? I don't know. But also it's a different kind of fight. I enjoy watching. You never see a boring women's fight. It's action packed all the time because of those 2 minutes. You see boring guys fights all the time. And sometimes it is those 3 minutes.
I said this before about that time limit thing with the women's fighting. Women, and I get it, like the gentleman said before, there's traditionalists, and then there's some women who were features who never got the credit. There's veterans out there now who don't get matched up by promoters, and that's why you see sometimes lopsided fights. Like you see some good fighters fighting, like he mentioned, some lady who shouldn't be anywhere near an amateur ring, never mind a professional ring, right? But promoters are avoiding the good veterans that are left around too, because they just don't see the long-term money maybe gain or whatever out of it. So they're not going to take that risk, right? But here's the thing. How many times do we criticize men sometimes for not doing enough in a round, a 3 minute round, right? So if the women are already fighting for the pay is never going to be the same, right? We can all agree that because that's in every sport, right? But when you're talking about action, right? And I say they're still battling for that sort of respect. Now they're getting on cars. Now boxing people are watching whole fights. The casual fan still isn't there doing that yet, right? So when you have then that 3 minute mark and they start going at a slower pace and fighters in a little bit less action, how much more criticism do you think they're going to already get? If we criticize the men, they're going to jump all over the ladies, unfairly so, but they're going to, and they already got an uphill battle. So I don't think that should change. I think the ladies should.
Can I ask Maureen a question?
Sure.
Was there ever a fight where you were in a round and you said to yourself, damn, I wish I just had 1 more minute in that round. I could have done some more damage. Was there ever a situation where you find yourself?
That's a great question, and a question I've never been asked before, but I can tell you no, because I train 2 minute rounds. So I've always felt like, and it wasn't because my cardio wasn't good or anything like that, but we train 2 minute rounds, and so I kind of know the minutes. I can tell where I'm at least.
It's in your head, basically, is what you're saying.
I already know where I'm at, and you have to remember, I'm also a 10-round fighter. So if we're going to the 10 rounds, I know how to, I don't want to say pace myself, but how to get myself going for the fight. You know what I mean? To know when I gotta go. The timing has a lot to do with that. So it's not like I go out there and I'm just like, go. And there's a lot of strategy. I mean, if you've seen any of my fights, I'm very much a technician, so I have a different style myself, just like Senisa. I have a style that not a lot of women have. So for me, I know how to use that and how to come out and start. So I have to say the answer to that question would be no. I always felt like, it was there, everything was there. I think it's more just the training. You have to train like that, because I did train 3 minute rounds, and it's a very different.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that if you sparred 3 minute rounds when you're training, just to kind of.
I did at the beginning, but it doesn't. It's a different energy system.
Yeah.
So I work with Phil Daru. He's my strength and conditioning coach, and he's like a mad scientist when it comes to combat sport strength and conditioning. He's the best.
Gotcha.
He's the best in combat sport, and he works with Dustin Poirier. He's worked with top MMA fighters, boxing, all that. So the science behind it and the energy system behind it, the physiological aspect of it does make a difference.
But it's kind of like the 30-second break versus the 1 minute break that men are using.
Sure.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really see the point in a 30-second break. I'm gonna tell you why. The longer the sparring goes, as soon as you get past round 3, when you give men 30-second break, you're not getting the performance that you would get out of him anyways. Like he would give you in a fight, or if he had a 1 minute break, because he's now gasping for air and thinking about he's only got 30 seconds, right? What professional fight does that happen in? None.
Yeah.
So I really don't even understand, the basis of that. I respect the other coaches who want to do that. I think it's more like a false mental thing. Like you think you're doing better because you're only taking a 30-second break. I've seen the performances time and time again. I've been doing this for 23 years. I haven't seen any fighter perform better with a 30-second break than with a 1 minute break in sparring. And at the end of the day, what are you doing in sparring? You're supposed to be practicing, right?
Conditioning for the real fight, yeah.
And getting conditioned and having a setting that's supposed to be fight-like, right?
Yeah.
So why are you altering that?
I guess if you do that, it's almost like you're trying to overcomplicate things a little bit. Why?
That's what I'm getting at.
It's an old school mentality. It's like, training harder, not smarter.
This isn't football.
It's a different thing. We're getting hit. But Nando Lamas said something over here about time is ticking for Senisa, 31 years old. So I want to make a comment about that. You got to understand, it's very different with the women. And I'm not saying that because I'm 42 years old, ranked number 1 in the world, and a 2-term world champion, having most fight number.
I was going to say something about Christine being 40, but I knew you were 42, so I didn't want to go there.
And this is it. This is where I'm gonna drop some knowledge on you guys. We don't lose testosterone as women get older. We lose estrogen. Our estrogen and our progesterone drop, so our testosterone becomes more exactly. It's not that it goes up; it just becomes more relevant.
It's true.
So our endurance becomes better. So you got to understand that, like, it's not a mature muscle. Like for me, example, I've been lifting weights since I was 17 years old. I have a ton of mature muscle. People are like, damn, look at your arms. I'm like, yeah, I'm just losing body fat. But I always believe, for me personally, I believe staying in the weight room. Why do I stay in the weight room? Bone density, women lose as they get older. Now we're talking science. And this is a part where in boxing, I don't think a lot of people are educated when it comes to the differences, physiologically with men and women. Biologically, men and women, there's a difference. And
in the movement,
everything's different, so, and I'm not trying to be like a dude. I'm very happy being a woman. I love my style. I dance. I fight like I'm dancing salsa because I have a rhythm about me, so but I have good muscle. I'm very strong, so I just feel like, maintaining yourself in the weight room, making sure you're keeping your body fat low, building your muscle or maintaining your muscle as you get older, it helps with your metabolic too. I mean, my metabolic age is younger than my actual age because of my muscle mass, because of what I've, and how I've maintained it. And also, your diet, like this is all important. You don't see the men really lose it because, you guys you lose it as you get older because the testosterone drops. We don't have that much of a big difference.
But you made a point there about science, and that's the thing that I'm half and half, right? As a trainer, I believe in a lot of old school ways of training, and I'm talking about men, but also women. But you got to understand science and it evolves. Everything evolves, right? And if you get to know a little bit of it, where a lot of boxing people either they're not interested, or they'll tell you, oh, that's not going to help him once he gets punched in the face. It will. You just don't want to get, put yourself in that because you're thinking all I got to do is run the street, hit the bag, do the sparring.
I learned something new. Today, man. I never thought about that, about the point that you just made about the testosterone levels. That's something, learned something new today. So thank you.
Science.
Never thought about that.
You're hitting on a topic because I've been a nutritional advisor, a dietary technician for the last 25 years before I retired. That's the field I went on in the supplement industry. And I know exactly what you're talking about, how the women's estrogen levels will drop, but yet the testosterone levels will still be leveled off. And naturally, you're going to be stronger. You're going to maintain the bone density and the lean muscle mass. And like you're saying, you eat a clean diet. I mean, I'm 68 years old, bro. And, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't know what I was talking about as far as nutrition goes. Half the people my age, man, they're in bed right now, they're waiting for, it's not a pretty thing when you don't take care of yourself nutritionally. And
You know,
I can see it. You're a 42-year-old wonder in my eyes.
42, not 43 yet. 42. Don't make me
well, whatever it may be.
You're rounding up. What's going on?
Age is just a number. Age is just a number. You can have. It's not the model. It's the mileage.
That's right.
I just want to put out there, my testosterone's fine, even though I'm 39, but I'm fine. Okay, I just want to put that out. Right?
Well,
I'm
I
fine.
take testosterone therapy. I do hormonal replacement therapy, but it's not to put muscle on. I mean, I was in the gym back in the 90s where people were sticking needles in their ass every day. I do it because testosterone's a hormone that regulates your cholesterol, your blood pressure. Oh yeah, man.
But you know what? This is the thing that people need to understand too, though, Bruce. I know you can. I don't want to get too much into this, but it's also the mental health. I know that testosterone levels in men, when they drop, it affects them. Not just it's not even the sexual issues, because I know men that don't have sexual issues, but then they have psychological issues. If they become too estrogen dominant. So I love the science, because, like I said, working with Phil Drew and our local in-house scientist Jose Rojas. I work in a gym where I'm fortunate to learn from these top people. He's also in nutrition, and I understand the importance. I've always eaten clean, but I also, even with my family, my mother's 79 years old, Bruce, you would be like, wow, she swims every day. She walks every day. She looks amazing at 79. So I got good genetics, but I also
this was me in the background. That's my before and after.
Oh, look at you. Good for you. God bless. That's awesome.
And that was me 20 years ago, albeit, but I still try to keep on top of things, because I know you mess up on nutrition and you're back to square one again. You are very, very important, especially in boxing. I can see it. It's, the boxers that I follow, they all have nutritionalists, they have chefs, they're maintaining 24/7, 365 days a year. They don't have to go to fat camp anymore. And maybe this weekend we're going to see if that makes a difference in the way boxing goes.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to go ahead and proceed here. Shout out to Senisa. Again, she fights on ESPN on Friday. That's tomorrow. You guys don't forget. Yes, she is fighting. All right. Nonito Donaire. His fight got postponed. I heard it was like a bruise in his hand, or like a little minor injury, but they went ahead and put the fight on the undercard of this big fight tomorrow. Nonito Donaire will be fighting Alejandro or Alexandro, I guess. Santiago, maybe that's it has the X on it. So, yeah. Interesting fight. I think Donaire's going to pull it off. I think he's going to become 10-time champion. Some people say I'm crazy. They say he's too old, but I think he's going to land that left hook. I think he's going to pull it off. Chauncey Pearls, who'd you got?
Well, since we're talking about age and being in our 40s, I'm 42, so I'm going to go with the old man, to come up with a virtuoso performance and two-time Hall of Fame career. Pretty much he had a Hall of Fame career as a younger fighter, and he's going to have a second Hall of Fame career as, I'm not going to say older, just a more experienced fighter. This is a 50-50 fight, though, man, in reality. I'm really glad that they put this fight in this undercard. And I think this is might be one of those fights that steals the show. I know we're all excited about the main event, but yeah, man, I got Nonito Donaire, hopefully, man, and he becomes another belt to his career. And yeah, man, that's who I'm going with. And yeah, man, hopefully Nonito pulls it off, man, for us old guys.
That's right. That's right. Derek, what you got in that fight?
Well, here's what you got going on there. You got the old warhorse in Donaire, right? Who seems to have a resurgence. And then you got Santiago, who is a probably lesser known version of Isaac Cruz. He's a hooker. And he's going to come with pressure and throwing 3, 4, 5 hooks at a time. Just power. So what you're going to have is, can the experience and the technique of Donaire hold off the kid who's just going to run across? I'm going to tell you right now what's going to happen. Santiago's going to try to run across the ring, basically, and go at him the way Isaac Cruz has been doing to a lot of opponents, and try to instill that sort of fear or get him to hesitate a little bit and catch him with a big shot. Santiago's not Isaac Cruz, but that's what's going to happen. So it's going to be very curious to see, how that plays out. If Donaire can escape getting caught by a lot of those shots early on, a lot of those body shots and the hooks at the head. And he has a very good chance of being able to pull it off in the long run. We'll see how Santiago does when the water gets deeper and the rounds go long.
100%. Also, he had that really close fight with Antoine Russell. I thought he won that fight. So it's like he's going to bring it. That's for sure.
And he gave Inoue his hardest challenge, man. So like, yeah,
that loss is aging very well. Actually, that's for sure. Moreno, Nonito Donaire, you think he's going to pull it off against Santiago, or you think the young lion's going to take it?
No, I think that people underestimate, boxing IQ, and I think this was that Donaire in the Inoue fight. I think a lot of people didn't think that Nonito was going to do what he did in that fight either. So I'm gonna go with Nonito, but I think it's gonna be a good fight. I agree that it'll be a 50-50 fight, but can it steal the show? Absolutely. But I'm gonna go with Nonito because I just think, I've been following him for so long, and again, I'm a 42-year-old, so I'm gonna go with the whole man, like Sean C. So I'll go with him.
But you said that the men lose testosterone and
boxing IQ, but this the thing is the boxing IQ.
Sports medicine's come a long way.
No, I just think the boxing IQ has, he's seen a lot. He's seen everything, really. So I think that's going to make a big difference. The adjustment, the ability to adjust, and the physical part of it's going to make a difference there. But the mental part, I think, is also going to be a problem for the younger fighter because the older fighter has that.
I know you mentioned your ring IQ, so are you saying he's going to win a decision, or you think he's going to knock him out?
I think it'll go decision. I think it'll go decision. Yeah.
All right. Bruce Gus.
His testosterone's lower.
There you go. Bruce Gus. Talk to us, brother.
Once again, we're speaking of someone who knows the benefits of nutrition. I've been on panels with his wife before, and she told me when she ran into him, he was a Kentucky Fried Chicken McDonald's guy. She straightened his life around. 40 today is the new 30. It's his 50th pro fight. He's going to break his own record of being the oldest bantamweight champion. This is too big for Nonito not to take advantage of. Santiago's going to be a tough kid. It's going to be a great fight. It's fantastic. It's an undercard fight. It's making this fight appetizing and better and better. But yeah, I think Nonito's going to take the bantamweight title home, and I think it's due to the nutrition. It's due to his training regimen that he has now. He uses a low stress workout. He makes sure those joints don't get all mangled and arthritic. And like I said, man, I think he's going to come out there and surprise a lot of people and come away with the bantamweight championship of the world.
All right, okay. Joe Beeb, Santiago's only 27 years old. Is he going to let this old man beat him?
I think the big difference here is speed. Even though Donaire's old, he's still quick. He's got quick feet. He's got great reflexes. He's explosive. He's a great counter puncher. And Santiago will come at him. He's aggressive, but I don't think he's the biggest puncher in the world. I think Nonito Donaire is the heavier hitter. And the old saying is you don't hook with a hooker. So, the quicker guy, his hook is going to get there first. And like I said, Donaire, the counter puncher, great timing, and the speed to go along with that. I think Donaire will stop him. I think Santiago will run into a big left hook, and I think he'll get stopped. I don't think he's been in there with a guy who can punch like Donaire.
Yeah, Donaire has a really good track record against guys that are 5'2", 5'3", 5'1". He just knows how to land the hook on those short guys, and I think he's going to do it again. He did it against Obali, and people thought, Obali's undefeated. He's a world champion. Nonito's old, and he sparked him out. So I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with Donaire by knockout. I don't know if the old man can win a decision. If he can't knock him out in the first 4 rounds, it's going to be a long night for Nonito Donaire. I will say that. But maybe he'll pull it off. We'll see. You know what I mean? That's why they fight the fights. And hopefully, and part of me wants to see him accomplish that, break his own record. 10-time world champion, become champion again at bantamweight at, age of 42? So is it 41 or 42?
I think he's 40 actually. Donaire.
He's 40. He's 40, right? Like,
Yeah, he's 40.
how did he age 2 years in a matter of a couple minutes? Like, what happened? People adding age here, but I think he is 40. But nonetheless, we'll see where that goes. Donito Donaire, you guys can catch that on the undercard of the pay-per-view. It will be on the pay-per-view portion of that. Speaking of the pay-per-view, the pre-main, I think it should be a Donaire fight, but whatever. Isaac Cruz is hoping to secure a Tank Davis rematch. All right. He'll be fighting on the undercard against Giovani Cabrera. Are people overlooking Cabrera? Is this just a coronation for Cruz to win? Just a showcase fight for him? Is it a tougher fight? And assuming Cruz wins, is a Tank rematch something you're interested in watching? I'll start with you, Bruce Gus.
Not really. Not really. I think there's a lot more exciting fights for Tank to go after. The way that fighters fight now so infrequent. I wouldn't want to see 6 months to a year be taken up with a rematch of that caliber. I think it's a great undercard fight. Cabrera's undefeated. It's definitely. I mean, this card surprisingly is stacked for a PBC Midsummer's card. I mean, this should even bring the casual out. It's an extremely exciting card, but I think Pitbull Cruz is gonna have to go back into the pack because 135 is so rich right now, and you got the young lions waiting. You know, you got the guys like Keyshawn Davis and Abdullah Mason, and plus you got the elites up there. You know, even Kambosos and losing the other night, he showed you how powerful boxing is. They want to keep him in the mix because boxing is an international sport. I think you're going to see Lomachenko and Kambosos maybe in Australia for a big money fight. I don't see Pitbull playing too much of a role in this except as an opponent. He'll probably win on Saturday night, but I don't see a rematch with Tank. I don't think that's in the cards myself, but hey man, I'm wrong most of the time.
Well, let's see, Joe, do you believe it's in the cards? Do you think the Tank Davis rematch with Tank is is what's more likely going to happen, assuming he wins? And do you think his opponent Cabrera has a shot?
Cabrera's kind of thin. He's a little bit tall and lanky. He's not a big puncher either. 7 knockouts. Isaac Cruz is a monster on the inside. Once he gets in there, he just lets those hands go. He's a very fluid combination puncher, beautiful body puncher, and an excellent left hook on the inside. It's going to be hard. I think Isaac Cruz will score a knockout as well. The Tank rematch is very likely to happen. I'm not crazy about it, but Isaac Cruz, he's got an argument that he deserves it. I scored the fight 7-5 for Gervonta Davis. I thought it was a very close fight. I thought Tank had to really dig down deep and pull it out in the end. Did some good boxing. Used the ring a little bit. Had to get some distance, and he thought he could match Cruz on the inside, and he found out it was better to create a little bit of space and become the counterpuncher, right? So, like I said, Cruz he can make an argument for it. For me, I'm not incredibly excited about a rematch with Tank. I would rather see Tank fight someone like Lomachenko or Shakur Stevenson. I would have loved to see Tank fight Devin Haney. I mean, that was the perfect time. Haney is busting out at the gills at 135, right? He's undisputed. This would have been the perfect time. He had to just come off a tough fight with Lomachenko. This would have been the perfect time for Tank to go after Haney, but it looks like Haney's going to be fighting Prograis next. So, yeah, for me, I just want to see Tank in with a guy like Lomachenko or Shakur Stevenson right now. I no disrespect to Cruz, I just don't want to see that rematch again. My own personal opinion.
Okay. Derek, talk to us. How do you see this fight going? And do you want to see a rematch with Pitbull Cruz and Tank Davis?
No, not really. I think Tank underestimated him the first time around, and I don't think that'll happen the second time around. To be honest with you, I believe that Cruz is a type of fighter. He's exciting, but he's there for the payday more than I think 130 would be great for him. He could become a champion. I don't see him beating Tank or Shakur or anybody, that of that kind of level at 135. he's going to make the fight really exciting because of his style. But to the point is, all right, I guess nowadays you never know. Some fighters are there for the check more than they are for winning the hardware. So no. Now, as far as Gio Cabrera, nice kid. I talked to him before. He went out to the West Coast. He's originally from Chicago. He was thinking about coming down to Florida and working with us too. He made it down over there to Freddie's and just kept sparring, got better, started doing better against sparring partners there, and here he is. This is a really tough fight situation for him though to be in, because even though he looked good, to your point, he's tall, lanky, sort of a very awkward style lefty. But man, you're putting him in a blender with Cruz, a pressure blender, and I think for as hard as that kid works and is nice and as honest as he is, it's a tough situation for him to be in. So I don't know that he pulls that off. It'd be a great story, but I don't think he does pull it off. But again, Cruz, where does he go? He keeps making the fights at 35 great for the check per se, but I don't see him beating the top dogs on the side. The size, in his case, is going to matter. I think that at 130, he eats those people up.
All right. Do you think maybe he fights Tank and then moves down after that?
Again, like everybody's point, there's so many big fights for Tank outside of that. And I do not think we would see as close a fight as you saw the first time. I do honestly think, with all due respect to Tank, he's a great fighter. And I know his coach, Calvin Ford, has, been for a long time since the amateurs. We both went into the professionals, rising. And I don't see it. Like what he knows now, what he may underestimated. It's almost like when Floyd, fought
Maidana.
No. Well, yeah, Maidana too, but God forgive me for forgetting Castillo.
Castillo,
right?
Yeah.
First fight, but the second fight was a blowout. And I think that this time around, to your point, Tank would know exactly what to do and sort of neutralize a little bit more of that. There'd be a whole lot more movement. There wouldn't be that much banging and staying close. So as much as the fans would like to see that, I don't think that happens.
Okay. All right. Shout out to Ashy Knuckles in the building. How's it going, brother?
Oh, everything is cool, bro. Just out of town working, surviving, man. What's going on, fellas?
What's going on, Ash?
Well, we're doing good. We're just asking about Isaac Cruz. He's going to be on the undercard of this Spence Crawford event. Expected to win. So is an Isaac Cruz fight against Tank Davis later this year or even next year something you are interested in?
Let me put it to you like this. I enjoy fights. So, yeah, if they fight again, will I watch it? Yeah, I will watch it because it's two top fighters fighting. Well, you got a top fighter and a guy that's ready to make his name off of some name in Isaac Cruz. And the first fight wasn't a fair shake in a lot of people's eyes, and he did enough to warrant at best a rematch. So when I said it's the business of boxing, what is the best way to gear a fighter like that at another opportunity of fighting a pay-per-view attraction in Tank Davis is for him to have a spectacular knockout on a pay-per-view undercard in front of a paying audience. So the first fight with Tank was enough to get a buzz going because I hear people ask me all the time about Isaac Cruz, about Pitbull. They don't even know his name, but they know Pitbull. So if he knocks out this guy in front of a paying audience, it will warrant it because he's doing it not in front of just boxing fans or doing it in front of a casual sporting audience. He's doing it in front of a paying audience. And it's just the business of boxing. That's the reason why Tank himself is part of the reason why he is a pay-per-view attraction himself. Not because Mayweather Promotions promoted him to the hardcore boxing fans. It's because they did the best thing they can do for any fighter they had under their banner in putting him on a pay-per-view card, Mayweather card, in front of a paying audience. And all he had to do was his part. And he was able to take over from that. That's just how it happened. So, yeah, that's one way to secure an opponent on a pay-per-view.
Okay. All right. Chauncey Pearls, what have you? Do you think he's going to win? First of all, do you agree with the odds makers? He's favorite, and do you want to see a rematch with Tank Davis?
Well, yeah, just as homie just said, we know what they're doing here. They're trying to build up a rematch with Tank Davis, with him fighting in this big pay-per-view card. Do I want to see the rematch with Tank Davis? No. Will I see it? Would I watch it? Yes. The reason why is because I obviously want to see Tank Davis fight the likes of Devin Haney, Lomachenko. I think it's time. I think that the fans deserve those fights. I think it's time for Tank to step up to the plate and fight these great fighters and cement his legacy as a. I think that Tank has the ability to do it. As far as Pitbull and his opponent, I don't. I'm going to be honest. I don't know too much about Cabrera. I know he's 21-0, 33% knockout ratio. He's tall. I don't know if you guys saw the press conference, but he's saying all the right things. Seems like he's confident and going in there with the level head, and he thinks that he can beat a Pitbull. So I got kind of excited, man. They were kind of bickering back and forth in the press conference, man. And will he be able to beat Pitbull? I'm not sure. I haven't seen too much of Cabrera, and that's my bad. But I'll be checking some highlights. I'll be checking some fights from him after the show. But obviously, Pitbull is favored for a reason. And yeah, man, I think that Pitbull probably beats him. We all know what they're setting up. But as far as Tank, Pitbull rematch, no, I don't want to see it because it's time Tank fight the likes of Devin Haney, Lomachenko, heck, even Teofimo Lopez. That would be a spectacular fight. So yeah, man, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, look, I'm not, and I've said this before, I'm not against the rematch. As long as it happens immediately and we get it out of the way. I do agree with Derek Santos that I do believe Tank underestimated him, and I do think he would probably wash him in the rematch. That's how I personally feel about it. He'll probably just box him more and secure a 12-round decision. Pitbull has like that little neck. You're not gonna knock that dude out, you know. Like you can hit that dude with every like Tank hit him with some big shots, and by the way, he hit Tank with some big shots too, and none of them went anywhere. So I think the safe bet is just outbox the guy, and I think that's what he would do. But we'll see where it goes. You know what I mean? We'll see how he looks. If he wins by a spectacular knockout, the buzz will start to a certain degree. So we will definitely see what happens with that one. Before we get to Crawford Spence, and we will get there. All right, I know people in the chat are asking. We're going to get there. First, we need to talk about Naoya Inoue, Monster Inoue. All right, he stopped Fulton in the 8th round in impressive fashion over in Japan. By the way, it was a big fight over there. Inoue was on the I saw somebody I know on Twitter was posting like he was on the front page of like the newspapers over there. A boxer, you know, that's crazy, right? Like 3 different newspapers, like magazines, and you go to the subways. They got posters of Inoue everywhere. It's like he's a superstar over there, right? So it was a big event over there. He secured a big victory. It was very shocking to me, not that Inoue won, but the fashion in which he won. I did not think he was going to do that to Fulton. I didn't. So if anybody saw that, then you saw it, but I did not. First, I want to ask the panel, what did you think about Naoya Inoue's performance? Did the performance surprise you a little bit? And let's start with you, Derek.
No, it didn't surprise me. I mean, the guy's getting better. And if you go, you know, and I'm not trying to say matchmaking is an art, right, and everything, right? But if you look at his box strike, this guy came out the gate fighting hard. You know, I wouldn't recommend any fighter coming out the gate the way he fought. You know, champion by fight number 5. I know with it, you know, the lighter weights, you know, you can do something like that. But look at his box strike. There's no weak opponents anywhere on there. And he's got now 4 titles, right? So they're all decent guys. And we can talk about how we build up fighters here all day long, right? And you won't match that too much. I mean, that guy's got a spot in Canastota waiting for him, right? That said, you know, we probably didn't think it was going to happen the way it happened with Fulton, because Fulton's a good boxer too. But I said, if you can't keep Inoue off him, he's going to keep coming, just walking you down. But let's think about something else. He didn't lift his chin up like he's been doing in other fights, throwing crazy hooks. He did feints. He was doing setups. You could see that from the beginning of the fight. He was working different styles. Like, I kind of feel like this guy's working styles like for future fights in his fight, you know, for future fights that he's coming. And so, you know, impressive performance. You know, Fulton, he'll be okay. You know, he'll be back. But you can't look at that guy and say anything less than just seems to keep getting better. He's 30 years old. Now, mind you, I saw the Steven Espinoza quote about him and Tank. Stop it. That's ridiculous. Stop it. That's not happening. Okay. He's not even going that far, because will he unify at 122? Yes, he will, because he'll beat Marlon Tavares, who's, you know, a tough Philippine champion, but doesn't really have anything in footwork or speed or anything that's going to stop him. But then you go to 126. Lopez is tough. Robesi is interesting. He's tough. He should do more body work, but he's tough, right? He'll beat Lee Woods. But then you got Ray Vargas, who's 5'10", you know, who will probably beat Vargas, but Vargas is going to give him a hard time. So I don't see that whole, you know, I see him doing 22. I see him beating a guy at 26, maybe two guys, maybe three, who knows? But I don't see him going past that. And I don't think Tank has any interest in dropping to 130 pounds. So, you know, Steven Espinoza is just trying to say something to keep, you know, the excitement and the rumor mill going, but you got to stop all that.
For sure, for sure. Ashi, what did you make of Naoya Inoue's performance? And what do you think is this, as of right now, what do you think his ceiling is, weight-wise?
Well, I'll start with the latter first. I think Naoya Inoue, the monster, tremendous talent. Obviously, we've talked about him many times through his conquering of division after division in the lower weights. I think he's a very superior fighter and athlete, and I think he suffers from being around divisions where there are no other super great fighters. And as a result, you know, yeah, you can put him in competitive matchups. And as the super fighter that he is stamping these guys out like the monster that he is. It's not his fault. There's nothing he can do about that. And he's only going to get so big. You know what I'm saying? People thinking that he's going to go up to 35 and fight Tank. I'm not saying it's impossible. After Manny Pacquiao's run through 10 damn divisions, winning 8 championships, man, nothing is impossible anymore in the sport of boxing. But everybody's not Pacquiao. Everybody's not gonna do things like that. It's just not gonna happen. But if he does, more power to him, more fights for us. Now, on the fight itself, I thought he looked great. He's a smaller guy moving up in weight, fighting a unified champion. And his jab was so much better than the guy that was naturally bigger than him. He was able to dictate with the jab being a little guy, steady stabbing him to his gut, stabbing him to his face, evading shots. I mean, it looked like Fulton's feet were in quicksand. We're talking about a guy who knows his way around the ring, know how to box on the move, and know how to elude big shots. But he ate shots over and over and over. And as you know, at the same time, I know Naoya Inoue was sizing up his opponent early, because when you're in the ring with a guy for the first time, you don't know what to expect. You can only watch the fights from beforehand, and you hear the stories of, you know, his boxing abilities, and you know he actually does have some pretty good knockouts. Not even for not having so many knockouts, he knocked off a lot of undefeated guys. But as he began to assess him, Monster quickly realized that the guy Fulton had absolutely nothing for him, and that's when he began to stalk him like he was a fucking wounded animal. And he did what he had to do, man. He timed him. He showed his speed was that Fulton's speed was not on his level. He showed Fulton's skills was not on his level. And in the end, he set him up, dialed up the perfect combination, a la Shane Mosley, a la Mayweather, actually. Mayweather does that jab to the body and right upstairs. But unlike Mayweather, this guy Monster packs a punch. And that was enough to put old boy on his ass. And yeah, he got up, but it wasn't enough for him to come back. And as a result, Naoya Inoue becomes a 4-division champion coming from the lower weight divisions. But I don't see him fighting Tank. I think that's a pipe dream. 26 maybe is silly.
Okay. All right.
Maybe.
Hey, Joe, obviously he has unfinished business at 122. It looks like the Paola's fight is next. What do you think is the ceiling? And now that you've had some time to absorb what happened on Tuesday, any additional thoughts you have about Inoue's performance over Fulton?
If you go back and watch the fight, at least from my vantage point, because the narrative of the fight was how did the shorter man out jab the taller, longer guy who has a very good jab himself. And what it all comes down to, from what I saw, was the feints. So he's coming in, giving that little head and shoulder feint, and once he froze him, he changed levels like right at the last minute, and then he was able to drop that jab to the stomach. And even Fulton said, he set me up with the right hand because he had me looking down, defending the jab to the stomach, right? So I think he showed a high level of boxing. He knows how to create openings. We talked about this before the fight, where he throws a lot of decoy throwaway punches to get his opponent to parry, react, and open up, and then he mixes in that hard shot at the end, right? But one thing that he did great was he was throwing that feint upstairs, which froze Fulton, and that's why the jab to the body was there, at least from my vantage point. So every time I've seen this guy fight, he shows you something different, and I think that he'll continue to do so. I think he's a student of the game. He said that he wants to be remembered as the best fighter ever. So the Tank, as crazy as the Tank fight sounds, this guy is probably crazy enough to probably want to do it at 130. I wouldn't advise him to, but I could see them offering him the fight at 130 and him thinking about it. 126, I think he does the same thing to those guys at 126. I think Lee Wood. I think he'll beat Lee Wood. Ray Vargas, I think, is a good fighter, but he's not the most durable, physically strong guy in the world. I could see him having problems with Inoue's speed and power. So I could see him unifying at 126. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I could see him going up there and taking care of business up at 126. But yeah, the tank fight does sound crazy, but this guy Inoue just believes in himself so much that he may entertain it. I don't know. I wouldn't advise it. I think it's a step too far myself. It sounds ridiculous, but this guy is he's cut from a different cloth.
Okay, all right, Chauncey, talk to us.
What's good, guys? So first, I want to just start off by saying I want to commend and give props to Stephen Fulton for taking the challenge, making the flight all the way out to Japan, and testing himself against probably the #1 pound for pound fighter in Inoue. And to me, Stephen Fulton's still a good fighter. He's going to get another chance. He just lost to a better athlete this past Saturday. And I actually just came from the X Games. I was watching. I went to the X Games live here in Ventura, which is like a 10-minute drive on the coast. And the Japanese skaters, man, they wrecked shop, man. They took a lot of the gold medals, and the reason why is because they are so accurate. They were so disciplined. They were able to pull off all their tricks. Everything they did had a purpose, and that's what I saw in Inoue. Everything he was doing from round one, you could tell that he was setting something up. And I thought that Stephen Fulton would be able to get away from him a little bit, maybe at least until the later rounds. But it just from the round 1 and 2, it already seemed that Inoue was already bothering him. There was something that Inoue was doing. That was the power, the accuracy, the boxing IQ. and eventually, man, he landed that. He was using that samurai sword, to the body, set it up, came up with that big, huge right, and it was all she wrote, man. And props to Inoue. That was one of the most spectacular performances that I've seen as of late. Shout out to Maestro. He made a short video saying that was one of the greatest performances he's ever seen in boxing. I don't know about in boxing, but definitely within recent times, that was a phenomenal performance. And man, Inoue is an assassin, man. Straight up, the guy is good. He's special. Happy for him. Happy for the people in Japan. They have a hero to look up to. And as far as the tank thing goes, I don't even want to talk about that, because to me, what's happening is they're trying to diminish what Inoue did by saying, well, he won't come up here and fight Tank, and I think we need to appreciate what Inoue is doing right now and see him. And I'm going to even say this. We're going to talk about the big fight right now. Even if the winner between, I know this might not, people might not agree with this, but the winner of Spence and Bud, I still see Inoue as number 1 pound for pound, and 2 will be the winner of Spence and Crawford.
Okay. All right. Just some context. I know all this started because the promoter in Japan said, now, granted, this is a Japanese translation, so I don't know Japanese, so I'm trusting the interpretation. But he allegedly said, if we continue to have the same success and we keep moving up in divisions and we continue the success, maybe at some point we can do a big fight with Tank in the United States, right? But that's a lot of ifs, though. That's a lot of. I believe in one thing at a time, right? I'm a firm believer in don't you got to get to the moon before you get to Mars first. You know what I mean? You're not even at the moon yet. Let's get there first, and once we're there, then let's navigate it then. And I just think those guys at 126, and I agree with you, Beeb. I think he beats them, but those guys got egos, and if you're telling them is just going to move up to beat them and take their belts, that they have something else to say about it. Bernal Lopez he's like, okay, well, let's see, right? Lee Wood, let's see. Like, I want to see the fights. I want to see him beat those guys. Once he beats those guys, right, then we could talk about him going to 130. I just believe in, you got to crawl before you start walking first. You know what I mean? Like just one step at a time. Let's see how he does. He may very well, if you remember, when Manny Pacquiao fought Margarito at a catch weight at 100, what was it, 150, 151, whatever it was?
150.
150?
Yeah.
He said after that fight, I ain't doing that shit again. Right? I ain't never going to fight there again. I'm going to go back down to welterweight. And that was his limit, right? Even though he won that fight, it was just too much, right? So, in a way, he could go up to 126, dominate, and still be like, you know what? I don't know if I want to go above this. Like, I'm good, right? Plus, I just saw a tweet of his. According to Google Translate, the tweet said, I forget what it said. Something like, I'm very sore. I could barely move or something like that. So I guess he's really sore from the fight. So I don't know, man. I'm just putting that out there, right? Really quick, shout out to Nando Llamas, Chauncey, reminiscent of Pacquiao Barrera. Hey, thanks for the support, brother. Chauncey Pros, again, thank you guys for allowing me to be in a panel, enjoy the card this weekend. And one last thing to Beef's point. As ridiculous as Tank versus Inoue sounds right now, and listen to what I say, he's got to get there first, right? I want to see him first conquer 126, and then we'll talk about 130 before we even start entertaining Tank, right? Or anybody at 135. But as crazy as it sounds, you all have been watching boxing a long time. You remember when Pacquiao was fighting at 130 pounds against the Marquezes, the Moraleses. If somebody told you then, this guy's going to move up, he's going to stop Miguel Cotto, he's going to beat Shane Mosley, he's going to beat Margarito. If somebody would have told you that then, I think the reaction would have been the same. Like, are you ridiculous? This guy is 130 pounds, and he started at 106. Are you out of your mind? But he did it. Like it's crazy to think, but again, one thing at a time. That's all I want to say. Bruce Goss.
You know, this is not the first time we've seen this. You know me. I always go back and relate. But getting back to Inoue, man. I mean, Japan loves Inoue. Inoue has blown up Japan, like you said. That they statues about him. I believe I heard accurately $10 million for this fight on a weeknight. I mean, bro, that's unheard of. But on the other hand, I think we have to be careful before we place him on that HPG list, man. I really do. Like I said, I've seen fighters of this caliber going back to those lighter weights. Let's look at a guy named Carlos Zarate, killing everybody. He moved up. He fought Wilfredo Gomez. He didn't kill people anymore. Wilfredo Gomez, the same thing, an unbelievable fighter from Puerto Rico, knocking out everybody. I believe he had a 100% knockout rate. He moved up to featherweight, fought the great Salvador Sanchez, was proven ordinary. Fighters don't realize they make these weight divisions for a reason, and especially at those lighter weight classes. It could be suicidal to even think of the fighting Tank Davis. I mean, man, that would. It's really something you'd see more on jobber match on WWE. It would be that competitive. I think Inoue should. I think he would clean out the junior the super bantamweight class. I mean, I don't think Lewis Neri, Tapalis, those are going to be easy fights for him. They're going to be enhancement fights. He has to move up to the featherweight class. He might meet some fighters there that'll give him some problems. Brandon Figueroa, no problem at all. Guys like Lee Wood, Robeisy Ramirez. I think that fight they might be setting it up because Robeisy was on the card in Japan. He defeated a Japanese fighter. Boxing, after all, it is a business. So it's 99% hype. This fight's already got an audience built in Japan. It's a multi-million-dollar fight. A few more fights at the 122. I think he moves up to featherweight, and we're going to see we're going to see big things from him. But the thought of fighting Tank Davis, no, not happening here, man. Not happening here.
Yeah, I don't think that fight's gonna happen.
Next year.
I don't know about that. I doubt it.
No, I'm just kidding.
I think Tapalis to end the year, and then I do believe he might stay there. Like the Neri fight's always been that fight that people wanted to see. He might do that. And just a fun fact, about 3 years ago, I thought Neri had a shot to beat Inoue, and I don't feel that same way anymore. Like at all. Like I don't think so. I think Inoue sparks him, to be honest, but especially with what I've heard about Neri and his partying ways. I don't know if he stopped that, but nonetheless, let's go ahead and talk about the big fight. Okay, we have this huge fight. Spence Crawford. We've been waiting years for this fight. But there's been other fights in boxing history that we waited. Like Pacquiao Mayweather made us wait. And then the fight it wasn't what we hoped for, right? But something tells me that there's something different about this one. Like there's something different about this fight. They're both undefeated, both champions. It's for undisputed. And the first question I want to ask the panel, before we get to the fight breakdown, we're going to wait on that. But right now, the first question I want to ask is this fight, regardless of who wins, going to live up to the hype? Is this going to be that type of fight that 20 years from now, people are going to tell their grandkids about it the way my grandfather told me about Hagler Hearns? Or is it going to be talked about in that fashion, this fight? Is this going to be a historic fight, a legendary fight, Beep? Let's start with you.
This fight will forever be stored in my DVR. Let's just say that. How's that? So,
okay.
So to answer your question, 100% yes.
It's going to live up to it. Okay. Derek, is this fight going to live up to the hype?
Type fight. And we'll see what happens. Obviously, do I think it's going to be Hagler Leonard? No. but you know, it has a chance to live up to that.
Okay, all right. Molly Shea.
I'm back. Sorry, I had to go walk the dog. Can you hear me? Yeah.
That's okay.
So
that's a theme. Like Inoue went to go walk Fulton. We went to walk the dog. It's all good. But Mark, talk to us. Really quick question before we talk about the fight itself. Well, we are talking about it, but is this fight going to live up to the hype? So many times we got these big pay-per-view events that they make us wait, and then the fight doesn't live up to it. Will this fight, regardless of who wins, would it live? Is it going to live up to the bill?
I think so. I think it's going to. I think this has been a long time coming. I think Crawford really wants it. You know, I had a conversation with Buddy McGirt, and I had Spence going into it, and then after speaking with Buddy, he's like, I got Crawford, like without hesitation. I said, really? And he goes, yeah, I just think he's way too crafty. Like there's just too much, and Spence is more one-dimensional. So right. I think it's going to be, and there's not much that Spence is going to change, where there's a lot of things that Bud can change and Bud can, you know, adapt. So I think it's definitely going to be a good fight. Okay.
All right. Chauncey Pearls, is this going to be a legendary fight, brother? Is it going to live up to the hype?
Well, if I think about it, like Crawford has not been in a boring fight. Spence hasn't been in a boring fight, at least lately. So I'm going to say I hope so. I hope so, man, because we've been let down, but I really, really hope that this fight does deliver. Yeah, I'm going to say I hope so. Yeah, but I think so. I think it will. Yeah, I think it will. I think it will.
Okay, all right. I got you. Ashy, talk to us. Is this fight going to live up to the bill, regardless of who wins?
I think, honestly, when you think about everything that has happened, which led up to the build-up of the fight, I think it has to be a historic fight. And not just on paper, I'm talking about during the course of those 12 rounds. Because like someone said a minute ago, Terrence Crawford doesn't have boring fights. Why does he not have boring fights? Because even though he has every skill known to man in the ring, he fights not just with his mind, but he fights with his heart a lot, because he does things that a textbook fighter would not do. And on Spence's side, he's been wanting to be undisputed for so long that it's now in front of him. And when you look at the build-up, all the damn criticism from Spence fans and Bud fans, and me included, because I get to be a boxing fan. I may break down fights and stuff. Well, I used to do it. I may break down fights or whatnot, but I still get to choose who I want to win. I have that right. I reserve that right as a boxing fan to go for who the hell I want to go for, right? So you got the size of the streets. Nobody want to, take the first initiative to offer contracts. You got the beef between the promotional companies. You got the fans, the fanatical fans getting into it, beefing with each other. And it all goes back to the fighters. They pay attention to this stuff. I know the twins, right? I'm the one that introduced the Charlos to the world back when I was in boxing. And I'm going to tell you like this, they don't miss nothing. And that was even back then. So I know all the fighters, they pay attention, man. It has an effect on them. Then you got Spence and Bud. A lot of people think Bud didn't really want to fight. He would always say, I can retire right now and go to the Hall of Fame. I won such and such amount of divisions. Spence needs me. I don't need him. And I don't have to fight Spence. And I even heard him say that the fight's never going to happen. And then when it comes together, I've even heard him say that I don't want it in Dallas. Now the fight is in Nevada, and now they talk about the scorecards. So imagine what Spence is talking about. I done gave you every goddamn thing. You done drew blood from me till ain't nothing but pus left in my system. I know he ready to get at Bud. Now, whether that's going to be to his detriment or not remains to be seen. But there will be fireworks. You can mark my words on that.
You having doubts, Ashley?
No doubts whatsoever, bro.
Well,
Did you
we'll
see the
talk- we'll-
press conference?
Gotta rep Texas, man. He gotta rep Texas.
Bro, that press conference was heated.
I don't know. I just heard. Will that be to his detriment? I don't know. You said, but we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it could be. It's a fight. It's a fight. You know,
Put a little spice to it. Put a little spice to it. That's okay.
Bruce Goss, is this fight going to be one of those fights that when I'm an old fart and I'm telling little kids about it, I'm going to say, go watch Crawford versus Spence. That was a legendary fight, legendary night. Will this be that fight?
That's such a 50-50 question, D Styles, because for every stinker we've had fight of the year. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, bro, but I've been in sales. It's been one of my many careers in my life, and the name of the game is you sell the sizzle, not the steak. It's the anticipation you sell. You get people mouth watering, and you don't know if they're going to get a well done piece of rubber or if they're going to get a prime filet mignon under there. And that's what this fight offers us. We're all looking for the fucking war that we want to see. We've been waiting for years to see this. There's so many personal aggressions going out. I mean, I've seen fights on YouTube that look like they're going to be more exciting than the actual fight itself, which could be an Ali Frazier knockout brawl. You know what I'm saying, bro? I mean, it could be. But then again, we could see Felix Trinidad and Oscar De La Hoya. And I was going just as nuts for that fight as I am for this fight. And I sat there after 12 rounds. I said, shit, what the hell did I just watch? But hey, it's like I said earlier, man. It's a flip of the coin. They sold that sizzle. Everybody out there is talking about it. It's broken apart blood relationships. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm just excited as the next guy. But if it's a stinker, it's a stinker. It's not that I haven't seen it before.
Yeah. All right. Make sure you guys hit the like button, by the way. Let's talk about this fight. Back to you, Joe. Straight up, who's going to win this fight and how? No fence riding, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to put that out.
Fence riding. You know I never ride the fence. I rip the fence down. I like both guys a lot. But ever since this fight was announced, I thought Crawford had the advantage because of his versatility. Spence is a great fighter. I think where Crawford separates himself from Spence is the foot speed and the versatility. I think Spence is great on the inside. I think he's good on the outside. He's got a very heavy jab. He knows how to, use that jab and push his opponent back, knock him off rhythm, which enables him to work his way on the inside because his jab is so heavy. He's knocking you backward, freezing you, and then he slides right in and he's on the inside. And once he's on the inside, he knows how to position himself beautifully, keeps his shoulder outside of your lead shoulder, creates those punching angles fluid on the inside. But Crawford is good from the outside, from the mid-range, and he can hold his own on the inside. The one advantage I think Spence does have over Crawford is the inside fighting. I think he's a tad bit better on the inside, but Crawford can hold his own. But where Crawford separates himself from Spence is in that mid-range area. I seen Crawford against Kell Brook, and again, you're going to say, oh, he's way past his prime, whatever. He started his stance orthodox, and he was coming at Kell Brook, and on the flash of a dime, turns to southpaw, and he's getting ready. He throws his jab, and then Kell Brook leans forward and takes that space away from him. And at the last minute, he goes, "Oh shit, I don't have enough space here." At the last minute, he had his hand extended halfway, and he goes boom and turns it into a right hook and put him out. This guy just shows you so many different looks, and he can change things up. We talk about making adjustments. This guy makes adjustments more quickly than I've ever seen any fighter do it. So I think the problem Spence is going to have is I think he's going to have a problem with Crawford's foot speed. I think he's going to have a problem with the different looks that Crawford's going to give him. And I'm going to be honest, I saw the press conference today, and I didn't like how Spence looked. He looked a little bit drawn to me, right? And I know he's been at 147 for a long time, much longer than Crawford, right? And he's been talking about moving up in weight for the longest time. He's had that hard living out of the ring, and had some mishaps in his life. And to his credit, another great quality he has, he's one of the most strong willed people I've ever seen, because who comes back from what he came back from? You can't help but not love this guy and have respect for this guy for him coming back like that. But at the end of the day, eventually that's going to catch up with you. He's got almost a year and a half layoff, battling weight, had some hard living. Now seems to have corrected all that, and he's back on track, as he said. And I believe him. I do think he's a hard worker when he's in that gym, but has some of that damage already been done, right? Because this isn't Ugas now. This is Crawford. Will that catch up with him in this fight? So I'm as much as I respect Spence, I think Crawford's going to stop Errol Spence in the 10th round. I think he's going to get a late stoppage in this fight. I think he's going to break him down.
Wow. Okay. Man, I saw your reaction, Ash. We're going to get to you, Ash, in a little bit. Derek Santos, talk to us, brother. How do you think this fight's going to go? Who's going to win this fight?
So what you got here is the strongest welterweight. I know he wants to move up to 54, but what you got is the strongest welterweight against the most versatile and best adjustment fighter probably in boxing in Crawford, right? And so what's happening here, though, I'm going to go with pros and cons for both fighters, right? The pros with Spence is you got strength. You got a great jab, super sound fighter. The con is, I'm going to tell you, he cannot give Crawford the respect he gave Mikey Garcia, the partial respect for the most of the fight that he gave Porter. Even at times, Ugas made that fight. I'm going to tell you, Ugas had success early in the fight. Ugas made the fight stupidly hard for himself by thinking that he could bang with Spence. I've known Ugas for a long time. I worked with him when he was younger. If Ugas would have boxed, he wouldn't have got stopped. I'm not saying he was going to beat Spence. He wouldn't have got stopped. Ego got him in trouble in that fight. And eventually Spence and his strength, his body punching and coming back up broke him down, right? So you have that. Now, Bud. Again, I've watched Bud. I remember when in the early fights where people used to say, there was commentators who say he's boring. He doesn't go for the kill. But I'm going, this guy's like sound at everything, right? He can do it left-handed. He can do it right-handed, make the best adjustments. I'm going to tell you where he could go wrong. What has made some of those fights super exciting, right, is his ego. His willingness to want to prove a point, right? Against Mean Machine, he was dominating, killing that guy when he was right-handed. But he got dropped in the southpaw stance and decided, I'm going to come out the next round in the southpaw stance again to prove a point that I can beat this guy in the southpaw stance, even though Mean Machine could not do anything with him in the right-hand stance. He cannot do that with Earl Spence. He cannot do it. He has to fight a very disciplined, super disciplined game plan, boxing plan against Earl Spence. Now, who do I pick? All respect to Earl Spence. If Crawford can stay within that game plan, he can win a decision and outbox Spence. If he can stay within that game plan. If he decides to turn this into your mama, my mama, we're going to cross the street, playground fight, man, that could be his demise right there. He cannot turn this into a playground brawl. He has the ability to outbox, outmaneuver, outjab Spence. But is he going to do what he did in the Gamboa fight? Is he going to do what he did in the Mean Machine fight? You know, even for small other parts of and some of his other fights, he's done the same thing. So it's going to be really interesting. Obviously, man, it's going to be a lot to live up to the hype of some of the great fights of the past. But I'm going to go with, I said a long time ago, Crawford, even when I went against him, proved me wrong because of his adjustments early in his career.
Yeah.
And so I'm never going to do it again. And I'm not going to do it with all due respect to Earl Spence, who I think is great too. And so I'm going to go with Crawford by decision.
2-0 Crawford. Okay. All right. Chauncey Pearls. Who'd you got? Like, you're going to go with Crawford, right?
Well, let's see. And
let's hear you out.
Let's see how I can put this, because every time that I feel that I'm trying to pick somebody, I feel like I'm disrespecting the other fighter, and I don't want to do that. And me and Calix have been going back and forth with this for months. And every time that we text each other, it seems like I'm disrespecting Terrence Crawford, but I'm gonna stick to my guns on this one. Errol Spence is gonna beat Terrence Bud Crawford, and I'm gonna tell you why. When I look at Terrence's resume, have you guys all seen Friday, right? Friday, great classic movie, and it's the scene where like Big Worm is asking what's his name, to Smokey come up and to show him his money, like, give me my money, and Smokey's counting the money, 20, 40, 60, 80, and he flips it around and he counts it again, and he's like, that's $100, man. It's like, you owe me whatever he owed him. He's like, I want my money. When I look at Terrence Crawford's resume at the welterweight division, I'm looking at it up, I'm looking at it down, I'm looking at it to the side, I'm looking at it over here. If we are going to have high standards in fights and boxing, there's just no way that I can say that Terrence Crawford has a legit resume, like an Errol Spence. Terrence Crawford's biggest opponent or whatever adversary was Mean Machine. Errol Spence's was a car accident, a retina tear, an actual champion that he beat in Sean Porter, not the Sean Porter that Terrence Crawford beat. He beat Ugas, the guy that beat Manny Pacquiao, not Jeff Horn. That I know that you're big on Jeff Horn, D-Styles, but no. So the resume is there, and look, it's easy to look spectacular against like these lower, guys that probably shouldn't even be in the ring. I live right next to it's like a old person's retirement home kind of thing. If I go in there and I knock everybody out, I look spectacular. Am I like a badass? No,
we'd put you in jail.
They put me in jail, whatever. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. So like, what I'm saying is that like I think that Terrence Crawford has looked spectacular because of his opposition, and I feel, and this is why I've always called Terrence Crawford at welterweight a middle-aged eye test, because he hasn't fought the best competitions at 147 when Errol Spence has. And I think that what's his name? What is your name, sir? I can't see, but the one that just spoke. He talked about Derek. He talked about and Calix brings this up too. Terrence Crawford will take a shot to give a shot, and he'll make himself vulnerable. And we've seen Terrence Crawford on skates against Gamboa. We see that was a knockdown, by the way, against the Mean Machine. That is a wrong, absolute wrong. But he's still up. But that is the wrong mentality, the wrong strategy to have against a legit, strong, in his prime welterweight that is Errol Spence. Errol Spence came back from that accident. He looked spectacular. He came back from that eye injury, and he still looked good. And for that reason, I think that Terrence Crawford is going to lose this fight. I think that Errol Spence is going to be the first welterweight undisputed champion that we've had since another left-hander, Zab Judah. I think that was a 3-belt era, though. So, yeah, that is my pick. I know me and Calix have a bet. And, if I lose, man, then we lose, man. It's all good, man. We want to just see these fights, man. At the end of the day, we're all guessing, you know what I'm saying? So man, but Errol Spence.
I get it. Like to pump up the Ugas when he Ugas that beat Manny Pacquiao. But who did Horn beat before he fought Crawford?
Manny Pacquiao. I thought Manny Pacquiao.
So if we're going to be throwing out the guy that beat Manny Pacquiao, then I'm saying, okay. But with that said, Ashi, talk to us. Who's winning this fight and why?
Well, a lot has been said thus far. Great takes, everybody involved. And I would like to hear anybody who, if you have a call-in line, that'd be great too, to hear what everybody's perspective is. But it's been mentioned before. Terrence Crawford has every skill known to man. Good jab, good power, switch hits back and forth, can box on the move, can bang, blah 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 blah. We didn't heard it all before. But the bottom line is, like Derek said, he will have to fight a perfect fight, given the caliber of opponent that he's in the ring with. And me personally, he never fights the perfect fight. He always leaves himself vulnerable. Even Spina Bifida, David Avocado, how everybody was going in on what's his name? Amnesia, whatever his name is. Even he was getting off on Terrence earlier in the fight. He was getting off on him. If anybody saw that fight, you know what I'm saying? Mean Machine put him down. and Gamboa was getting off. Even Hank Lundy was getting off on this guy. So everybody immediately saying that Terrence Crawford has the best defense. That's cap. Now, you know, he may well have the best defense, but he doesn't use it because he don't always fight with his brains. He's willing to take that challenge to find the right opportunity to land the knockout punch. Well, guess what? You in there with somebody who got a bigger, stronger jab than you, and he throw that motherfucker all the time. And when you think you got a read on the first one, it don't matter. He just gonna double and triple that motherfucker up because he coming. And he bringing that heat. He bringing that heat with him. You know what I'm saying? We're not talking about somebody who began at 135 pounds. This dude been a big boy, been solid, been sparring 19, 20 rounds in 100-degree heat. And you know what? Everybody's talking about like Inoue. He's a pound for pound best, blah, blah, blah. He may well beat all that shit's subjective anyway, going through all these divisions. Not Terrence, but Errol Spence is on demon time. He ain't got time to go through 8 divisions to get on that list. So you know what he's doing? He knocking off motherfuckers that's on the list. Give me the prestigious list. I'll fight those motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? He knocked off Mikey, blanked him. Now everybody acting like Mikey wasn't top 5 pound for pound. He was top 5 pound. I got the article. I will post it. Errol Spence is knocking off the very best competition out here. His very last opponent, Jordanis Ugas. Ugas wasn't pound for pound, but the guy that he beat right before Errol Spence, was he pound for pound? Because when he beat Keith Thurman, Manny Pacquiao was on that list. He was on that list. Now, Joe, my boy Joe, I'm gonna ask you a question, and we can make this rapid fire. You know me, I don't give a damn. It's for better discussion. What is Jordanis Ugas' best punch? Not his strongest punch, his best punch.
I would say the right hand.
You think that's the best punch? Okay, second best punch.
Left foot? Oh, uppercut, actually.
Well, in my opinion, Jordanis Ugas' very best punch is the jab. The jab sets up everything for him. And he's able to do a lot of things off of it.
I would say he doesn't throw it a lot, though.
I think that jab
is he's more of a counter puncher. Ugas is more of a counter puncher. I don't think he throws a lot of counter right hands, in my opinion.
He's changed that style. He used to throw a lot of jabs when he started.
Yeah, he's a counter puncher now. In my opinion, I mean, that's what I've been noticing.
Not a problem. Everybody has their own opinion, but I know one thing: when he was in the ring with Spence, that jab was nowhere. You saw Spence's jab, and like you said, it's heavy, it's fast, it's stiff, and he used that as the mesh, to get in, to get his way in. And when he gets inside, he's not just throwing punches all willy-nilly. He's throwing his body shots and his head shots.
Yeah, he's tight.
Based on his opponent's body position and foot position. Yeah. Whatever you give him, that's where the punch is going. Yeah. If you really look at him, he don't just throw. This is not James goddamn Kirkland. So when you look at his past opponents, even though Sean Porter is a stickler for Terrence Crawford, which a lot of people could because he could win. I mean, anybody can win this fight, no question. No question, right? But Sean Porter says Errol Spence hits harder than Terrence Crawford. Kell Brooks says Errol Spence hits harder than Terrence Crawford. Jamel Charlo says Errol Spence hit him at the hardest he ever been hit in sparring and in a fight. But everybody acting like Terrence Crawford just gonna knock this guy out. Well, yeah, you made time guys coming in, but you know what else Sean Porter and Kell Brooks said about Errol Spence? They said he's more defensive. So not only is he coming in throwing punches at a high volume, he's protecting himself. That's why you got to scroll through 1,000 minutes and 1,000 rounds just to find a round where he actually gets his flush. They'll go to round 8 at 2 minutes and 34 seconds to show when he finally gets fucking hit. That's because the dude is bringing 100% unadulterated heat. He's the bigger guy, stronger guy, taller guy, hits harder, better fundamentals. He got comparable speed. He fought better competition. Washed these guys, top elite talent. He's a natural southpaw, more big fight experience if we're talking about pay-per-views. This ain't the bubble, you know what I'm saying? And he's the most consistent. He don't go in there just fighting with his heart. He stays to the game plan. And when he falls off the game plan, you know what he does? Gets back on the game plan. And I'm gonna talk one more time about that southpaw jab because Southpaws with good jabs dominate boxing, and they're very difficult to deal with. Erislandy Lara, most people don't want to see him fight because he's boring, right? That's what everybody says, he's boring, but his jab always keeps guys offset. Mark Too Sharp Johnson had a really good jab. He had all the skills, but he had a damn good jab that kept guys offset. Winky Wright, Southpaw. That was his only damn weapon. He don't seem like he threw the jab 1,000 times. Camacho had a good jab. Pernell Whitaker had a good jab.
Vernon Forrest.
Even Michael Moore had a pretty decent jab.
He had a good jab.
Usyk, fucking Luis Ortiz, the heavyweight. You know what? You know one of the main reasons why Terrence Crawford turned southpaw. Yeah, he make a lot of adjustments. Let's give him his credit on that. Floyd Mayweather made a lot of adjustments. Whitaker made a lot of adjustments. A lot of great fighters that make adjustments. But Terrence Crawford, at the very first sign of trouble, gets away from his foundation, which is the orthodox stance. That means he has trouble making adjustments in his natural fighting stance. And as a result, he switches southpaw because he has a whole lot more power on that right hand to jab guys and to knock them out with the hook. Now, here's the problem with that. The angle at which he knocks these guys out with that right hook won't be there because he's fighting a southpaw. So he's going to have to find another way to make adjustments. And he's going to have to make them at the drop of a dime, like y'all say, because that heat is coming.
And I will say one more thing, because Terrence Crawford is a
You want to
dog.
double down now?
No. Terrence Crawford is a dog, and that's for sure. I cannot take that away from him. But in this case, the dog is going to end up biting Terrence Crawford in the ass. He's going to try to get back. And Errol Spence is not the dude to try to get that get back.
We'll continue. Let's just let Bruce Goss get in here really quick. Bruce Goss, who's going to win this fight? Who do you believe will win this fight? And who do you got? Who's your pick officially?
Officially, well, it's changed. It's changed several times since the fight was announced, because I like to watch these fighters develop in the course of the fight, and especially the psychological development. But I'm seeing a lot of the physical development too, and I'm gonna weigh that on the side of Bud Crawford. I think Errol Spence has had to do a lot to play catch up. To get more into fighting shape. I mean, he's been living the good life. It's difficult. It's difficult hanging out with Beezy, Yeezy, whatever his name is, bro. I really think that Bud Crawford is isolated up there in Nebraska. He's hanging out with all fighters. He's running in the snow. Some dude is telling me New Year's Day at 5 o'clock in the morning. He's seen him jogging through his neighborhood. I mean, this man is dedicated, and I think that's going to make a big difference in this fight. And as far as Bud not taking on the top competition at welterweight, bro, nobody wanted to fight him. Fucking Keith Thurman wanted $10 million. Danny Garcia flat out said no. I mean, he's been wanting this fight. He's been foaming at the mouth. I think Errol Spence has been taking a lackluster approach. I think reality day. I think he's going to see a much sharper Bud Crawford than he thought he was going to see. I think he's going to get beat to the punch. I think he's going to be in. I don't know if he's going to be able to go to plan B or plan C, because I don't know if Derek James is that type of trainer. Whereas Bomac, say what you will about Bomac. Bomac goes deep into boxing. He's got a lot of knowledge. He was hanging down in New York in the 70s in the gyms, man, But Bomac knows his shit, and he has a lot of people that he can fall back and get advice from. So I just think it's going to come down to the battle of the wills, and I think Bud Crawford. I just think his class is going to show. I think he's well preserved. He hasn't taken those beatings. And once again, Spence. We've never seen Spence get knocked out or knocked down. So it's a classic fight. It could go either way. I'm looking forward to it. Gun to my head right now. I'm betting Bud Crawford.
Okay. All right. Is Marie Shea there?
Yeah, she's on a business call. Sorry.
Gotcha. It's all good. So, baby, you wanted to make a point. Go ahead, bro.
I'll make one quick point. I just want to say, Ash, you remember in the 5th round when Ugas landed that right hand, knocked the mouthpiece out, and when he landed that right hand, where was he? He was in that mid-range area. Danny Garcia landed a similar right hand in the mid-range area, knocked the mouthpiece out. And Spence looked down on the ground. Spence looks down on the ground against Terrence Crawford. That dude is one of the best finishers in the sport of boxing, man. He's gonna be in trouble.
I've heard that many times, and you're right. He is one of the best finishers. The problem I have with that mind frame is, yeah, he did it twice. He did it with Danny Garcia. He did it with Ugas. So he's gonna have to say fuck that mouthpiece if it comes out. And it's a mental thing. And when you're in the midst of a fight, there's no telling where your mind can go to. It's the brain. It's the human brain. You know what I'm saying? But even with that mind frame, I have to assume that every punch that Terrence Crawford throws is a knockout punch. Every punch that he throws is not a knockout punch. I can't say that if he lands a shot in that moment, it's going to be a knockout punch. He may buzz him, he may put him down, but these guys train so hard that, I heard Mickey Ward said it a long time ago. I'm gonna try to say it like a Bostoner. We train so hard so we can take this stuff. We train so hard for the fight.
Wicked hard. Wicked hard. You gotta say wicked hard.
He said we train hard so we can take this shit. And that is a fighter who had to go. He fought a lot of good guys that he was not supposed to beat. So these guys they're in impeccable shape. And I've seen Spence rocked a few times. You know what I'm saying? But he always gets back on his square. He always endures. And at the end of the day, you have to wait for a moment like that before you can hit him flush. But let me ask you something, B. But prior to that moment where he's dropping his mouthpiece, what's happening in the fight? What has happened?
I think I only gave Ugas 2 rounds in that fight.
Domination was happening.
I gotta be honest. That was an extremely impressive performance against Ugas. I thought Ugas could pull that one off.
And I'm gonna say it like this: Terrence Crawford picked him to win, and you want to know why? It's because Ugas is strong as hell.
Ugas can fight, man. Ugas can fight,
and he's strong. He's a big welterweight, and he's strong and durable.
Yeah,
now let's see if Terrence Crawford can endure anything remotely close to what Ugas got.
But neither guy would you agree that neither guy like Spence or Crawford has really one-punch knockout power? They haven't really shown a lot of one-punch knockout power. They usually wear the guys down, right?
They do, and I think Terrence, his knockout punch power, I think he can knock anybody out. Terrence Crawford,
but he can hit you with shots. He hit you with shots you don't see.
Even with a shot that you see, I think he hitting like that.
He's also got the killer instinct, bro. Don't forget the killer instinct.
And I think they both got.
Bang. Ugas stepped back to admire his work.
Yeah. Well, that's true too, and the ref came in too. The ref came in, as Ugas in that moment should have tried to press him out right there. But
Crawford would have jumped on him.
Ugas was under heavy thunder, so in his mind, he calculating data too. Like, man, how can I? And when the head is getting hit, you cannot count on the brain to function as it is right here, right now, as we're talking on the camera. So it's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking. As opposed to, in the moment. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
None of us, no fighter can say what they would have done in the moment when you're getting hit. You know what I'm saying? But back to the question, I've seen Terrence Crawford line somebody out with a counter and get him out of there. I've seen Spence knock a guy out to the body in the first round.
That's
so
true.
I think at this weight, both of them can thump. I just happen to believe that Terrence Crawford, before he starts calculating data, he's gonna be downloading with a 56K dial-up modem. You know what I'm saying? Before that happened, that chin is gonna get checked early because Terrence, like he said, I'm stepping. Doesn't he always? And Errol Spence throws them straight. He's not a hooker. He only hooks when he's in range for the hook. When he's not in range for the hook, it's the straight and it's the left. And Terrence is susceptible to straight shots. He just is. But like I said, and I say this, I'm from Texas, so I'm biased as hell. I don't.
I know, but you're making a logical argument on you.
I try.
You ain't talking crazy like some of these other dudes. You're making good logical points.
Yeah, bro. It's a great fight, and you know what? As much as I go off on Twitter, I just be trying to start an argument. Actually, when I'm on Twitter, I do that on purpose. But at the end of the day, I know that both guys can win this fight. This is a great fight, one of the best matchups in years, man. And I love Mayweather, but I don't think he would have made either the fight with Crawford or Spence. if he was in his prime against him. I just don't see it.
No.
Just don't see it. You know what I'm saying? This is a great fight. Anybody can win it.
And I just hope it lives up to it, man. Like that's all I hope. And if, like I said, if my pick is wrong, then cool. As long as there's a clear cut winner, no controversy.
If it's an exciting fight,
let the best man win.
I don't know. I'm hearing a lot of like Ashy and Chauncey were talking all gangster like 5 minutes ago. Now, it could go either way.
Well, we put them in the dirt. We putting them in the dirt.
Come on. The confidence levels dropped a little bit, I think. It's
he's just trying to be polite.
Hey, really quick, Nando Yama, Spence is head and shoulders better than anyone Bud has faced. Crawford swimming in deep in for the first time ever. Man. Hey, Derek, I know you absorb a lot of what's being said. Well, what are you thinking right now? And do you agree with that statement that he's never fought somebody like
compare that though, because Spence has always been a 47 and Crawford hasn't. So that comparison of saying, well, career-wise, Spence has fought better 47, sure, because he's been at 47 his entire career. Heck, he was a 52 as an amateur. So he just dropped right there. He's been at that weight his whole career. And I do believe Errol Spence is going to be world champion at 154. I just don't think it's a fair comparison sort of to say, well, Crawford didn't start his career there. He wasn't fighting at that weight class. So you cannot put that's apples and oranges in a sense. But again, you get down to Spence, great body puncher. Like I said before, I only think that he just has to be careful not to give too much respect in rounds away. Right, because that can happen. That can happen in this case, and in Bud's case, and like I said, disciplined game plan. And as Ashley said, sometimes he wants to fight. When he shouldn't fight. I thought that Ugas's, I didn't understand Ugas's game plan because he was having some success when he boxed, and then in the middle he just decided whether it was him, whether it was the plan. Whether the coaching was telling him something else to do, he decided, I'm going to show you I'm tough. Negative. He hung himself. Ugas hung himself in that fight, okay? I'm not saying he's going to beat him, but that fight should have gone the distance, right? And so at the end of the day, man, I don't see either one of these guys stopping each other. I think at some point, even if Crawford does get a little egotistical and decide that he wants to try to hurt Earl or go blow for blow, you would hope that his team in the corner would reel him back in and say, hey, stay on this lane, right? Like a Formula One race car driver. Don't go to the outside, stay in the lane. Stay where we need to go. And as far as Derek James goes, he's done an excellent job with Errol Spence, and yeah, I can understand he might not have had the different type of style fighters, but he does understand that with Earl, sound fundamentals is what works. Coming with that jab, body, coming with that jab now. And again, man, if Bud sits there, not a good move, man. But I do think that Bud can outbox him. I just don't think it would be a good move for him to sit there and try to bang with Earl. I think actually, if I'm not mistaken, Bud has a reach advantage.
He does. 2 inches.
And so again, that would, I know 2 inches is 2 inches, but guess what? When you're taking a half step back and you're throwing a punch, that 2 inches counts. When you're talking, let's just say both guys are equally as fast, those 2 inches count. My punch gets there. Boxing is milliseconds. We're both throwing the same punch. And if I get there just a half a second before you might hit me, but the inertia and the power of your shot is lessened because I hit you first. You understand what I'm saying? So, and that is science. Again, back to science. So and at the end of the day, this is going to be great. Everybody had great points here on the panel. I hope it lives up to it. As Bruce said, we tend to sometimes have some crappy fights and go, you know what I mean? I thought Earl could have stopped Mikey. I think he should have. I thought he gave Mikey way too much respect. I think he should have pushed up on Mikey. I think he would have got Mikey out of there. I think Mikey took that for the check. He did Mikey a favor, And all due respect to Mike Garcia, he was a great fighter in his weight classes. I think he was just out of, the shark was too big in the tank that he jumped in with Earl when he jumped in with Earl Spence, and I just think that Earl gave him a little too much respect in that fight, and that shouldn't happen. So the mentality of how all of this is going to play out, again, back to Ashley's point, these are human beings. They're not robots. They're brains. They can get tired. They can get hurt. They can get cut. And one of those moves when Terrence is inside, sometimes Terrence will get a little high, trying to circle around and get a little bit on his tippy toes. If Earl lands one of those short, hard body shots in there, that can change the whole game, because you can hit some guys with bricks to their heads and they'll make the fight. Them body shots are a different story. Any fighter, I don't care what kind of shape you're in, what kind of abs you think you have. You can have a case of abs. A well-placed body shot ends the fight. Ask Jorge Linares. Look what happened with Loma. A little stab, boom. Fight over. Oscar De La Hoya, you could say he was probably just edging out Bernard Hopkins. A little stab. He could not move. So, one of those shots from Earl Spence could really do the job. I don't think it would be a headshot for either one of the guys. But if somebody got stopped, I could see where Earl could stop him with a body shot. I'm not sure that Crawford's head punches are better than his body punches. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And in the high guard, the way that Earl fights, he covers his body very well. If anybody remembers Nathan Clevery from Wales, he's a guy that used to just be a pure boxer, but seemed like his arms were twice the size of everybody. Like he could just put it against his body, and it was from the cup all the way up that he was covering. And
for sure.
Fighting, I remember I was part of Sergey Kovalev's team when we beat Nathan Clevery, and I remember just saying to Kovalev, hit him in the arms, like the shoulders, because don't go here. He's got this super awkward long guard on his forearms. Open him up by hitting him on the outside of the shoulders, and he did, and ended up stopping him.
Yeah, Wiki right as well. So
Wiki was another one.
You're right. So look, I have one more question. There was a press conference today. I'm not sure if you guys were able to see it. So here's the thing. We're not even at the weigh-in. That's tomorrow. Right? So I don't even know if Spence has gotten there yet. And Spence looks like he's, those Hollywood actors when they get a role and people are like, oh my God, what happened to you? Like they lost all that weight. Like Mickey Ward's brother, I remember in the movie, The Fighter, dude got super skinny. People were like, whoa, look, you went from Batman to that. What happened? Right? Here's the thing.
Earl already said the rematch has to happen at 54.
Well, that's the thing. Is the weight going to be a factor? And any general opinion about the press conference and all that, Beeb?
I love the press conference. I think it got heated. I thought people in the crowd were getting involved, the family. I like what Crawford did. He tried to calm everyone down, say, hey, let's not let this get out of control. But then he started going off on people in the crowd too. So I'm just going to be honest. I didn't like how Spence looked. He just didn't look. He looked like he was very gaunt and drained, and he still got 2 days to go, man. So I don't even know if he's got a little bit more to squeeze off. I mean, so I think he's been trying.
He's on weight now. I can guarantee you that much. And like you said, he looks drawn. There's no way no fighter would be on weight 2 days before the fight.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he may have about 4 or 5 pounds left to go. I don't know, Coach. You know better than me. But,
doctors say it only takes 2% to throw a fighter off. Obviously, not a great. I'm not saying that would happen to great level fighters, but at least a mediocre or mid-level fighter can have a lot of problems with even a 2% difference in their body weight, right?
Yeah.
From where they want to be, from what they used to be. Rehydration these days is an absolute science. You got fighters paying tens of thousands of dollars to have an entire team of people, mad scientists, to get them back to feeling better. I'm quite sure with all the money involved, I'm quite sure with all the resources, Errol Spence probably has a good group of people that are going to get him at least 80% of the way there. And so we'll see, 80% might be enough. You know what I mean? No fighter goes into any fight 100%. You just went through a training camp. You got beat up, you were sparring, and then you had to cut weight. And depending, as Bruce alluded to before, how far did you get out of control? Everybody's different, right? In your weights. I've seen fighters lose 20, 30 pounds and still fight effectively. I wonder why. Because as a coach, as a guy who's worked this, in 7 world championship teams, I'd go nuts if I saw you anywhere between 15 and 20 pounds over, just walking around, or heavier than that coming into camp. But that seems to be like the new wave of boxing. If you ask a lot of the old trainers, the old coaches, they'll tell you 12 pounds. Once he goes over 12 pounds over his fight weight, he's going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
You just never know. But everybody's different. Everybody's different.
Sure.
You
I mean, dude, we had Jake
Hold on, Bruce. We're going to wrap it up. So Chauncey Pearls, really quick, give me your thoughts on the press conference. Any thoughts you got on that? And do you think the weight's any issue for Errol Spence?
Yeah, I love the press conference. Yeah, the whole bickering. I just like the build up like that, man. It gets me excited. But as far as the weight, I'm still picking Errol Spence. To me, I'm going to be honest, he did look a little bit gaunt. But what I did notice is as he was walking into the press conference, he still had a bottle of water. So he was drinking water. So that's a good sign. I hope that he wasn't using that bottle of water to spit, because sometimes they'll be spitting, to get those extra ounces off, pounds off, whatever. And he had a nutritionist the whole camp, man. So I think he's going to be okay, man. I don't think it's going to affect him per se. I hope not. Like I said, I'm obviously picking Spence, but as long as both of them are healthy, they put up a good fight, and whoever wins, let the best man win. So yeah,
there goes that confidence again. I mean, no, but hey, Ashley, talk to us. Are you concerned at all looking at the way Errol Spence is looking, or do you think people are overblowing it? And what did you think of the press conference?
Yeah, I think it's overblown. Spence trains like a fiend. You know what I'm saying? The dude will be outside shadow boxing till the fucking morning. Even when he didn't have a fight, back years ago, he'd be in the gym training all day with no fight lined up. He's really a throwback fighter in every sense of the word. He may look a little sunken in because he did come down from a higher weight, but like I said, he's making the weight healthily now. You've been drinking water all camp. You can't be dehydrated. I guess he could be dehydrated in Vegas, running 7 miles in the mountains and stuff like that. But if he don't make weight, it's not an undisputed fight for him if he do. So I have to assume, as a championship fighter, as a high caliber fighter, a unified champion, that he knows that the championships cannot be attained unless he hits that number. You know what I'm saying? And throughout his career, he's always hit that number. Even if he had to lose weight on the day of, he's done that several times, but he always hit that number and he always performed. And I forget who said that. I think it was Derek who said that. It's been guys that didn't have the greatest training camps that performed on fight night. I've seen Kermit Cintron get that work in sparring in his training camp and knock the motherfucker out on fight night. You know what I'm saying? So nobody goes in 100%. You go in with what you go in and you make it happen. You know what I'm saying? It's you against the other guy. It's the combatant versus combatant. And the only person in the ring with you is the official telling you what to do. Everybody else is out the question. It's tunnel vision. I'm gonna listen to my corner and I'm gonna focus on my opponent and try to take him out.
Absolutely.
Get what I put in for the fight. That's it. So whether he hits that number or not, there's no excuses. The show must go on. Even if he's sunken and he can't make the weight, or he's drawn and he gets his ass obliterated, I'm not taking a single ounce of credit away from Terrence Crawford if he becomes a 2-division undisputed undisputed champion in the 4-belt era. He's getting that credit for me, and he will be pound for pound #1 in my book. You know what I'm saying? Because that's unprecedented accolades against a beast a guy who we know flush guys, blank them on the scorecards. So if he goes in there and I don't give a damn if he decisions Errol Spence. He's the #1 guy in my book, and I don't take credit away from guys when they win. Even if the guy I pick lose, he don't go to camp to lose. He go to camp to win. So if he don't win, you must give credit to the guy who fucked them up. Excuse my language. I'm getting animated with the shit. You know what I'm saying? So if I really don't think, I've seen Spence 1,000 times, and the weight has never been easy because, like I said, like somebody said earlier, even in the amateurs, he wasn't a welterweight. He was at 52 or higher. Sean Porter was at 65, knocking guys out too. Sean Porter knocking guys out. You know what I'm saying? So, the weight is it's part of the job. It's part of the job description. He's a professional. I expect him to be a professional and hit that number and go out and perform. Everybody spent their money. I expect nothing less from EJ.
There we go. Bruce, close us out, brother. Did you watch the press conference? What's your opinion? And do you make anything of Errol Spence the way he's looking on the before the skills?
Yeah, I love the press conference. I thought it was good and hostile. I mean, man, I never heard the N-word be passed around so much in my life. Bro, I mean, it got to be the point where it's not even offensive anymore. I think you call somebody the C-word, they're going to get more taken aback by that these days. But, I mean, it was brutal. I gotta give Bud credit though, man. He looked like he came in there with attitude. He wasn't stepping back. They were screaming at the audience, going back and forth. It was nuts. And if we're gonna wind up, I just want to say one thing that I have heard from both sides. I hang around with a lot of people that are older than me, and they made their living in boxing. And don't be surprised if there's some shenanigans that goes on after this fight. I've heard it on both sides. I can't say anything. I shouldn't have even said anything. But just don't be surprised. The way boxing's going today, it's a business, and people have a lot invested in it, more than just a boxing match. So hey, man, I'm looking forward to it too, and I hope it's a hell of a fight. But the decision, once they say in the new, man, there's going to be I think there's going to be as many fights after that's announced than there is before it.
There you go. We'll see who's going to become undisputed champion, unless it's a draw, of course. But we will see. I want to thank everyone that joined us. Joe Bieber, like always. Derek, thanks for joining us. Shout out to Baron Shea, by the way. Chauncey Pearls, Ashley, thanks so much for coming on, brother. It was a pleasure once again. And Bruce Goss, like always. Everybody have a good night. We're out. Peace.